you spend too much time focusing on measuring success by the amount of money you make, then it could be very dangerous. And then that's the only thing you care about. But at a certain point, when it ceases to make life easier, I don't think that's success. I think that's success to a fault. It's a detriment. And then it will start taking its toll on your creativity and, on your relationships and things. So I think success is how you make people feel, how you inspire people, and how you've mastered your craft.
Hey, Jon, I got 6 rapid fire questions for you. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Awesome. Guys, meet Jon, and away we go. What is your number 1 top selling piece of art, product, style, or theme? What is the one thing, the one piece that you got to take to the shows with you?
That would be the Pantocrator painting. It looks like a Greek icon. It's a giant sort of warrior king with a sword.
Why do you think that is? Why is it that one piece?
I painted that a long time ago when I was coming up with something that was sort of a main character for my story before I even wrote it. And then like the Viking shows started to come out, and Game of Thrones, and people like watch those shows. And I guess this is partly the reason. And they saw that this character had like similar armor to the people on the shows. And I had painted it way before I even knew who George Martin was, and way before Vikings became cool again.
Yeah.
Not to be one of those guys who says, I liked it before it was cool, but I just wanted to paint something that was meaningful to me and that was really fun. And just, I love painting medieval characters. And then people really liked it because I just got lucky. That happened to become more and more popular, that aesthetic and that kind of character. And they really like the symbolism.
Very cool. And it's continued to be popular.
Yeah.
Very neat. Okay. Number 2, what is the one thing you love to do? What is the one thing you love to create, make, or do? Being a creative, being an artist, and creating a world and a whole IP. What is the one thing, though, that really lights your fire that you love to do?
I love making myths. And I like writing them as much as illustrating them, but sometimes I try to get through the writing so I can get to illustrating, because that's kind of the fun part for me. Writing is tough. Writing is more of the work part, even though I think they're just as fulfilling.
Right.
I love making mythological monsters and characters and really fun but powerful stories.
Yeah. So do you have more myths than Astromythos?
Mm-hmm. I have almost 100 different stories, and there's only 10 per book. There's only, there's only 10 in this one.
Okay.
And I have 2 chapters left, or I call them myths, to the second one. There's 10 more in that one. And then there's some side stories and other content and other mythological, storytelling content in my other books. Like I'm doing an RPG version of my world book for Hit Point Press.
Ooh, do tell. What is an RGB? Did I say that right? RGB?
A role-playing game. Yeah.
So you're building a role-playing game to go with it.
It's a tabletop role-playing game based on the lore.
Oh, that's going to be
live the mythology.
And so it's going to be published, right?
Well, yeah, that's the goal. It's going to launch in March.
Ooh,
and Hit Point Press is promoting it, and they're going to be my potential publisher. Depends on how well it does on Kickstarter, but my editor is Critical Crafting.
Okay.
His name is Dylan, and yeah, it's turning out to be really great. I've already sculpted a little monster miniature for it, and there's a preview. There's a free preview with a couple characters and some maps and things that you can order through Hit Point Press on their website.
Oh, excellent. We're going to link to that, guys. Go check it out and be one of the first ones to get to see this new world game coming out. It's going to be awesome, right?
It's very different. The tone's very different than the mythology books, which read much like the Odyssey or like Remember the Ancient Mariner, some old world tale. But of course, you have to change it for the gamers, right? In the gaming world. And I play myself. I play a bunch of board games and tabletop games. So it was a really fun project for me.
Oh, so cool. That is going to be so cool. Okay. Number 3 is the opposite. What is the one thing you hate to do that you just dread and put off? What is one thing as a creative you just hate? You just can't stand.
I hate social media.
Oh, I hear you on that one. Believe it or not, I hear you.
I should rephrase that. I hate using social media to promote my own products and going on social media to post. I use social media for other reasons, but just the stress and the anticipation, the anxiety of social media is really tough. But I know, don't get me wrong, it's a great marketing tool. It's not as fun as drawing for me or writing. I'm just like any other artist. The business aspect is 50% of the whole picture, the whole career.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it that I was never good at. I'm not good at taking videos. I'm not good at posting things and saying things about my work. It always felt foreign to me. I'm not very good at it.
I get you. It is
And I even
hard.
teach how to do it. I just don't like it.
I think I think a lot of people feel that way. It's very challenging.
Mhm.
And then you got the trolls and people that are just mean online. They say things that they never would elsewhere. So that's always a challenge.
That's part of it. It's a big part of it that turns me off. That's just, yeah, it's terrible, the things people say.
Oh, I know, right?
Yeah.
Okay, number 4 is, what is the funniest or weirdest experience you've had as an artist?
Funniest or weirdest experience? That's a tough one. There's a lot of them. Funniest or weirdest? I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you one.
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Don Mate shared on the podcast that he was going to present his work, his oil paintings of Captain Morgan in New York City, and he had them on the top of his car, and they were still wet from being up working late the night before, and he drove off, and they flew off the car and landed upside down on the road in the gravel and the salt and the snow, and he was just like telling how it was so horrific. Have you ever ruined a piece or dropped a piece or something like that?
Yeah, many times. That made me think of a couple times. My dog ran on my piece and it was a suede mat, so he ruined it right before I was about to drive away to go to a show at Lexicon.
No.
I did Gen Con by myself one year and I dropped one of my paintings and it broke when I was packing my car. I hung a painting way back at a show, and it felt like it was on the hook,
Right.
but it was resting on like maybe the back of the frame and not the hook. And I walked away and it fell and it broke the mat, and I had to spend $100 to repair it. That's why I do my own frames and mats now, to save money and things like that. So a lot of pieces got damaged. Yeah. But when I'm just preparing them to put the painting in the frame, I like saw off part of the painting, or yeah, really bad stuff.
Oh, geez, that sucks. Well, it's a learning lesson, right? So even the best of us, we make mistakes and we have weird experiences, right?
And even when I'm painting something, before it's even done, sometimes paint will get on it, or like some ink will spill on it, and I'll have to find a way to fix it. So I'll put something in the foreground to cover it and just, pretend it never happened.
No happy accidents for you, not like Bob. Happy little tree, happy little accident.
Bob today. Yeah. Now that you mentioned, actually watch Bob Ross to calm myself down, because it's very stressful being an artist, as you know.
It is.
Even more stressful.
He is so relaxing. I could totally sleep to him. Like, Bob is like the man. You can just be like, nighty night, right?
I have one of these in my office.
Oh, you have a Bob in your office.
The bobblehead Bob.
He's smiling down from the heavens on you. And, it's kind of funny. You paint a lot of, with Astromythos, you have all these suns and moons and outer space. Do you ever paint a lot of clouds?
For the second book, it takes you to a planet that's like Earth. So there's waterfalls, there's clouds, and I get to have fun. I get to be Bob Ross. I get to paint trees, and I love it.
Oh, I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it. And okay, number 5. If you were just starting out again today, what's the one most piece of important information you would tell your starting out self?
That's a tough one because I did everything backwards.
Did you?
I couldn't find work, so I wrote and started illustrating the Astromythos, my own story, to just have work and to sell work and to use that in a portfolio to get work. And now I'm doing the shows and bringing those books with something I worked on for free for 20 years. Now I'm getting the freelance jobs. So that's what I wanted to do first, but I couldn't. So I had to do it backwards. And now people come to me for commissions.
I don't know that you necessarily did it backwards if it got you to where you wanted to go.
Most people, I guess some people wouldn't consider that backwards, but I don't know. That's a weird way to answer that question.
No, I like it though.
I guess my advice would be don't give up. And this might be Chris Burdett talking, but draw more. Now I always like when I'm talking to him, I see the tattoo on his arm that says draw more, as a reminder to himself. And I feel like that's good advice for everybody, even if you're, Chris Burdett, who's worked on like Star Wars card games and stuff, and for D&D, he's done all these great film industry work. Even for someone who's just starting off, draw more, and don't quit. Just keep making exciting work until someone likes it. Because most people think that if they're not getting work, no one likes their work. But the key is to just keep submitting, and it has to be seen by the right person who appreciates your style. Because I used to think my style wasn't good enough or too weird, but then the more I wrote it to, the more I found that certain people really, really, really liked it. And they're like, "What are you talking about? This is really good. It's just that the style's too strong." So I really like the paintings that you might have seen at these shows. I didn't think it was good.
Really?
Really takes, that's why I say don't quit, because it really takes the right person to tell you how good, to make you feel valued, how good your work is.
Oh, I saw your work and I loved it right away. It just reminded me of like Byzantine iconography from like with the gold leaf and the characters, and yet it had that epic mythology feel of Tolkien. It was like this cross between old world Jesus paintings and new world fantasy. I love it. I love it. It's beautiful. I think it's fascinating, Jon, that you share with us that you felt that your style wasn't, that people wouldn't like it. That is such great advice. You hear that, guys? Somebody who is so amazing says, I wasn't.
Right.
Thank you for sharing. Seriously, thank you for sharing. Number 6, why do you think that some work hits and some work doesn't? Now, this is a big philosophical question, but I think everybody wants to know, like, what is it that makes a piece hit? Do you have any?
That's answers to that.
We all want to.
There's so many different answers. I mean, you could start with the like how the marketability. Is it marketable? Is it like trending? Like I was saying before, are there like shows and books out that have something similar or similar characters or aesthetics that people get really excited about? Because if someone likes watching a show and then they see one of your paintings and it reminds them of a character in that show that they really love, they're going to want to buy your piece or get a print of it. Someone likes Lord of the Rings. Like I have a piece that looks like the tree ents, even though they're different characters, people still love that piece because it reminds them of their favorite book.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, when a piece really hits. But you have to be careful about that because you can't make your work too derivative, otherwise you don't stand out artistically. Otherwise, I think a piece really hits if it's, like I was saying before, powerful. It can have like wow factor, and it can look really good, and it could be technically the best painting ever, with like perfect anatomy. But if it doesn't like speak to someone on a higher level or in a profound way, then it doesn't hit as hard. It doesn't, appeal as hard to someone
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well.
And now you're on the appeals, the artist appeals. So cool. Awesome. That was our six rapid fire questions. Let's get into the meat of the thing. So tell us about your latest projects, because we always kind of start with art, but you were on early on in the podcast before we had visuals, when it was just audio. So if you guys haven't seen that episode, you can't, because there's no visuals, but go back and watch it or listen to it, because Jon gave us some really, really awesome advice on commission processes. But now you got so much more going on. So tell us a little bit about, like you mentioned earlier, derivatives and your working process. So tell us about what you got going on now and these new derivatives that you're creating of Astromythos.
So I was saying a little earlier that I'm on the second to last chapter of my second book, which is the sequel to the first one, which introduces humans, and it really communicates how humans interact with stars, and the stars kind of become like a pantheon to the human world. And then I took from that lore and from that canon and made a 5e compatible tabletop RPG.
Role player game. Woo!
Game, yeah, with dice and with miniatures and things like that. Basically a fancy board game, right?
Yeah.
That's being edited. It's in the final draft. It's going to launch in March. I made it because people kept asking about it, and they said, this would be a really great game, like a video game or a tabletop game. And I love tabletop games. I'm a game master, they call it, myself. Like I play D&D.
Dungeon master in D&D.
Yep. So
do you play Magic too?
No, I had to pick one because I don't have time. I barely have time to get a group together to play D&D. But people said this would make a great game, and so I started working on some some statistics for my characters and some maps and things, and putting together a story that's based on the book I'm working on now. And soon, sure enough, I got a book together, and it's being promoted now, and it's looking really good. And I made a miniature for it. I sculpted this big 2-headed monster, and it's very mythological, of course, my favorite subject. And I'm working on that. I'm teaching, and I just got hired by Hasbro, so I'm mission.
That's really cool. I mean, Jon, you're creating an IP. Let's talk about IP for just a little bit. And I want to hear more about Hasbro too. I want to hear about what you're doing for them. So what is an IP, and how did you come up with this whole, it seems to me like you're sharing that one thing led to another, and that you said earlier that you started working on something that was a personal project.
Right.
And then it sort of evolved and led you to different spaces, and you heard people saying that it would make a really cool game. But can you talk just a little bit about world building? Because I think some people want to do that.
That's something I teach here. I'm at my office at the university, in New Haven, and I teach world building for writers. It's an honors class and an English class, and I teach world building for illustrators, 2 different classes.
Oh.
And I'm thinking, if I ever stop teaching, potentially next year, I will put together a world building academy through Patreon or some sort of Discord platform, a whole year for anyone. I was approached at Gen Con by Draco Studios, and they keep asking me about online classes. I'm like, I can't. It's a conflict of interest. I can't do it when I'm teaching full time here. So that's on the horizon. But to answer your question, that's a meaty subject. I have
It is
a whole year's worth of content for world building, and sometimes I try to just cram it into a 1-hour lecture. I did one at FairyCon a month or so ago. And it's a lot of information to cram into just maybe 1 hour or something. It's a whole year's worth of college content and academic, like a master class, really.
Yeah. So if somebody wanted to build a world, what would you say would be the first stepping stone, the first piece? Is it to come up with this massive idea, or is it to just create a central character and get started?
Everyone needs a spark. I call it the golden
Okay.
thread. For Tolkien, it was a line he wrote on the back of one of his students' exams that he was correcting in A Holder Lived the Hobbit, right? And that's how this Hobbit started. It was
Really?
one line. Yeah, that's
What
how
what was the line? Do you know? Do you remember?
it was. In A Holder Lived the Hobbit, and it was on the back of one of his students' exams that he was correcting, and he was just doing a doodle break, as I call it in my drawing class, stream of consciousness. And then he started writing about something called a hobbit who lived in a hole, and he made the hole a house, and then it just unfurled from there. It snowballed. So I think you need to find that spark that really excites you, like that really. And for me, I think it's something that makes you feel like you're a kid again, because when you're a kid, everything was really cool and everything was awesome and awe-inspiring, and it was the first time you saw everything. When you're an adult, you feel like, oh, I've seen everything, and I wish I felt like I was a kid again on Christmas morning or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's that feeling. For me, it was at the Boston Science Museum seeing the Horsehead Nebula, but it personally looked like someone walking in space that was made of stardust or star stuff. And I thought, why not make characters that are anthropomorphized or personified stars, tell their story, and then talk about humans in the second book and how humans are made of star stuff and how their destinies are intertwined. That was really my In A Holder Lived the Hobbit moment, and I think everyone needs that. That's what you call the golden thread. So for me, it's the stars. The stars are that's the common thread of the story. Everything comes back to space and the stars, and
Right.
the features of stars and how that you could kind of turn that into like a human interaction, or something that people do, like binary stars or black hole stars, or brown dwarf stars, or pulsars or magnetars. Is magnetized or gravitates towards something. The black hole is like selfish and everything, sucks everything in and is all devouring. The binary stars are lovers, and so on.
That is simple.
Tolkien, the hobbits were the common thread. This little character in a big wide world, a milieu story. The fact that even a small character or person or creature can change the world or make a difference.
Right.
I always came back to the little hobbit, right?
Mm.
And that was so
And
relatable. Everyone feels like they're this little person in this giant world.
you said you guys take doodle breaks in your class.
Yeah.
I like that bit of advice. It's almost like, to reframe, you're saying that this golden thread is almost the golden compass that will lead you through a world building project.
Like
And that to find it, you have to doodle and you have to explore. Like you said, yours was at the museum. So guys, go to museums, draw more, doodle more, feel like a kid. That's my takeaway.
Find your sanctuary where the whole world just melts away, and it's all about you, and you can really connect with your highest self. That's where you find your best ideas, and you get to know yourself. It's like a cathartic process. You get to know yourself better by doing so.
I think that's a lot of people talk about flow state now. And for a lot of us artists, I think that moment when you lose track of time, that flow state, that is why we do it. It's euphoric, if you will.
Right.
Very cool. So your golden thread led you to a series of products and projects, being the first book, now the second book. When does the second book come out?
Well, since I'm doing this like intermittent project, they put that on hold. So maybe a couple of years.
Darn it. I want that one.
Don't worry. It's almost, I've already done half the illustrations. There's 2 more chapters, but I'm still following that thread. I say thread because it's like the labyrinth. That's how Theseus navigated the Minotaur's labyrinth, by rolling out the thread and you can find your way back with the thread.
I didn't know that.
It connects all the corridors of in your mind. Connects all your ideas. It connects all your the little sparks and neurons, and you have to hold the thread. You can't snap the thread or cut the thread. Otherwise, your story doesn't have a cohesive theme or motif.
And a thread's a lot more permanent than breadcrumbs, so that's good.
Yeah, the birds will come and eat it.
Yeah. So, tell me about Hasbro. Let's talk about that a little bit. What are you doing with them, or is it non-disclosure? Can we talk about that?
We can't talk about that. Yeah, I don't even know if I can mention that I work for them. I know I can't post it on social media, but yeah.
Oops.
Yeah, that's all right. I think it's fine. I think it just anywhere in writing or using their logo, you can't talk about it. You can't talk about what project you're working on. All I can say is it's Hasbro's Avalon Hill. That's it.
Well, guys, there you heard it first, a little sneak snippet. So you'll have to come back once it's official, and we can talk about it and tell us more, right?
I always wanted to, what I can tell you, that would be great. Yeah, I would definitely be happy to come back if you would have me. I would
always.
Yeah, well, thanks. I can tell you that I wanted to work for Hasbro for a long time because I grew up with Transformers and GI Joes, and I still have some of them in my basement, and they make me happy.
Believe it or not, I watch GI Joe every morning over breakfast, and knowing is half the battle.
Love that show. I've seen those. Yeah, that's hilarious that you used to watch it. One of the illustrators at LuxCon actually became an illustrator because of the GI Joe package art, because of all the characters and the explosions and things. She was a graphic designer at Hasbro. But anyway, Hasbro bought Wizards of the Coast, so it was my dream to always get a job with Hasbro and work on D&D. And
so how did you get hooked up with them? Can you share with us how you've made these connections? I think that is a really valuable piece of information that people would really love to know. So you've created this world and you've really given us this wonderful imagery and metaphor of the thread. Now, how do you get that thread out there once you've found your labyrinth and found your thing? How have you made these connections? Like, can you share with us a little bit some of the things that have worked best for you for connecting and getting your work out there?
So this sort of goes back to what I was saying before, earlier. I guess it's not really backwards, but to me, it feels backwards because I didn't start as a freelancer. I made my book and worked on my own project in order to make a bigger portfolio and to get, eyes on it and collectors, and then eventually some freelance work. That took a while, but it's, because of, among other reasons, I couldn't get a job working for Wizards of the Coast or working for like a Avalon Hill or Fantasy Flight Games or something.
Yeah, it's very elite.
It was really hard. They would like a couple of my characters, but some said my style was too strong. Some said they were looking for something else. So I actually applied many times to work on D&D or Magic the Gathering. At the time, I also played Magic the Gathering, and I didn't get it. So I said, I'm just going to make my own characters and try to make something that stands out. And I kept working, and then I started to hear from small-time game companies, small press publishers, and game companies that I've heard of, and I owned some of their games. And then eventually, last year at Gen Con, someone from Rob of Avalon Hill, Hasbro's Avalon Hill, came over and he saw my work and he said, "This looks great. I'd love for you to do some work for us." And he just gave me his card. And I emailed him when I got back, and I'm on Hasbro's payroll now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How many conferences do you do a year, and what are your favorite conferences for connecting and networking with people?
My favorite is Gen Con because I'm a hardcore gamer and nerd. I always have been since I was like 6 years old with Warhammer or HeroQuest. And then AluxCon, FairyCon.
Where we met, guys. AluxCon, right in my backyard in Reading. Who knew?
Yeah, very convenient. I'm jealous. And other shows like FairyCon, which I call FroudCon because it was created mostly for Brian and Wendy Froud, and their fans and artists, and some other shows like I'm applying to DragonCon this year. I just got into Kineticon, which is right in my neighborhood backyard. But
I think like every state has a con now, doesn't they? I mean, I went to Awesome Con in DC recently. I think there's like a con in every major city now.
Mhm. Yeah, there's
Right.
also Fantasy Con. Yeah. Boss
Well,
Con, Expo.
that's really cool. But have you found those to be really rewarding with making connections? Really good for networking?
Even if you don't do well one year, you have your artist alley booth or your art show booth, and you don't sell much. You always get some leads, someone who comes over and gives you their card, wants to work with you. So, that's sort of something to look forward to after the show if you don't do well, sales wise. So it's great for networking. You also make a lot of friends there who you can just see every year and look forward to seeing them all year, and or you make connections through those friends.
Yeah.
So, it's really great to hear their stories and to have breakfast with them and to go out to dinners with them after the show and after you stand all day selling your work and
have hibachi, get food thrown at you, drink a little sake,
drink service, and that's how students find work.
Yeah.
So it's great for students to go to, or aspiring illustrators.
I think so too. So we've talked a little bit about art. We've talked a little bit about product, which is your books and stuff like that, and presentation. And you're an educator full time at University of New Haven, right?
Mm-hmm. That's where I'm right now.
How do you find that teaching ties in? I always felt as a teacher that teaching taught me almost more than it taught the students. Like I learned probably twice what they did every time I taught a class. How do you feel teaching has influenced your work and
I feel the same way, that you learn just as much from the students as they learn from you, because you have to. Sometimes you have to run a demo and you have to learn how to do a certain thing that you didn't know how to do prior to that semester. I learned a lot of the reason I use so many different mediums is because I had to teach the entire program here. I had to teach illustration 1, 2, 3, senior portfolio, digital, world building, concept art. So I had to learn how to do all these different things. I'm training to learn how to use Harmony and Storyboard Pro for next semester to teach animation.
Oh, cool.
So I learned a lot about art, and I know how almost every medium works now. Everything from airbrush to gold leaf to oil to acrylic wash, and the combining all those mediums in a seamless way. So then there's the connections. You have connections with the other professors, and there's people, there's artists who come in to show in your gallery space at school who you meet, and you share ideas with them. You get connections through them as well, and there's grant opportunities and opportunities to just make some money on the side while you work on your vision or your IP.
Part of the reason I bring it up is because I said in the Artist Appeals book that I think one of the steps I found and one of the common threads in all these interviews is that so many of the artists I've interviewed, they teach. Not just as college professors, because not everybody is going to be a college professor. That's a lot of time, and those are, coveted positions. But so many of the artists I met and have talked to, they teach workshops at local art organizations, or they teach at craft shows and fairs. They put on live demos. I've met people that do virtual teaching. And many, many, many of the artists that have been on the show, like I think 70% have books, and they could be just like coloring books or kids art books, or they can be as complicated as how to draw a face or how to draw perspective. So I just bring it up because it seems to be a common thread that, it really helps us network and helps us grow.
Right. It does. Absolutely. And illustrators are teaching in one way or another. If they're not doing it in a classroom or in a workshop, they're doing it online with their videos.
Right.
And something that's really important, that artists are willing to share their secrets and to teach, even though they've never, stepped foot in a classroom after graduating college or getting their master's degree. Every artist should be teaching and showing aspiring artists how to do it, like on YouTube or something. Right. Even if it's in the comfort of their own home, they're still doing it.
Yeah. Where can you mentioned that you teach sometimes that you'll try and crunch an hour in, and you said you've got a year-long program that you're working on. Tell us where we could get in linked up with you and take something, learn something from you. Is there any resources you'd like to tell us about? I want to come take your world building class. That sounds epic.
Yeah, I haven't put it together yet. I put the like the package together yet, but I have all the information, all the lectures, all the actual course content. I just have to put it somewhere where it's accessible to people online. But I have to wait until, of course, after the spring semester is over. And I have a mailing list through my website and a QR code.
Awesome. What's your website so that people can go get your join your newsletter so that when that course is ready in the spring, they can get notified? Do tell.
So it's www.astromythos.com.
Okay. Join the newsletter. Very good. Mm-hmm. Hey, you wanted to share some pictures with us, right?
That's right.
Share some visuals. Let's see it.
So
let's see the inside of that book. Let's see some of this gorgeous art.
If I may, I'm going to share screen. This is the pamphlet for the book that's launching in March.
Okay. Beautiful.
So just some previews of some of the pages with the character stats and the character illustrations, some quotes, and
ooh, what is that?
Spider webs and some. This is one of my living volcanoes. We've already fought that.
Wow.
And they're also characters from book 2. So it's interesting, to actually be able to immerse yourself and be able to play as these characters or fight against these characters. So just some previews of the many characters and objects and mythological artifacts and things that are going to be in the book, and some maps and that gives you a feel for it. And it's going to be about 100 pages, fully illustrated, five chapter adventure.
Neat. So how long would it take to play?
Well, you typically, for this kind of game, you meet, maybe once a week or twice a week. We meet once a month because I'm so busy, and you play for a few hours every session. It takes like 8 to 10 sessions for the 5 chapters. So you play, if you play every week, you play for like a couple months. If you play every month, you play for maybe like 6 or 7 months, maybe 8. So yeah,
very fun. I love it.
And it's, there's the QR code and the details.
Excellent. And we'll make sure to include that, guys. So make sure to scan the QR code or click on the link and join. Last but not least, well, actually, it's not quite last. Let's talk a little bit about licensing and contracts, because I always like to share a little bit of information about licensing and contracts if we can, because it's like this secret club that nobody tells you about in school. They don't talk about, oh, did you know you can license your work? What? Right. So can we talk about that?
Yeah, we talked about that last year. That was one of the many topics we covered in Senior Portfolio, which is a 2-part course for our seniors in illustration here.
Fantastic. I'm so glad you included that.
Licensing, I don't know where to begin, right?
Well, maybe we just begin with the simple stuff and the fact that it allows you to have your artwork reproduced on products and earn royalties, right?
Mm-hmm.
What would you add to that?
So you need to be careful about that, because you always want to ask for an advance, which is payment up front on anything that's coming from the licensee. You're the licensor because you're licensing work to a company, right? So then when you get an advance and you're happy with it, then you can start talking about royalties and how much you're going to get every time a piece of your artwork is put on something and sold, like a mug or a shower curtain or a towel or tapestry or something.
Yeah.
So you really have to know what's fair for you and fair for them in terms of like royalty ranges, right? And then of course make sure you get something up front, because if you're not, then that's, if you get more of an advance up front, that means you're going to get less royalties. If you get a little advance, that means your royalties are usually going to be bigger, but it depends on the company, right? So that's really important. It's something that people don't really know when they get into licensing, and you have to check to see if the company's a legitimate company before they start licensing your products, and that you have you still have the rights to the artwork and the imagery, because they might steal your property, your intellectual property.
Ooh, bad news.
So you can protect that with an LLC, which is basically it's a lot like the protection, like attorney-wise, lawyer-wise, that a big company has, but it's certain individuals. And it's a little better than a Schedule C, which is just something in your taxes for small business owners, because it actually protects you, and you can take legal action if someone steals your work, or if you want to sue someone for something.
Interesting. I think you're the first person that's brought up creating an LLC around their IP. We've talked about copyrighting individual artworks, which can get very expensive, because if you're copyrighting an individual piece, it's like $30, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you start an LLC? Just a high level overview.
You can register your IP, like something like Astromythos or Lord of the Rings, through the Patent and Trademark Office, and that's all pretty expensive. Last time I did it was like $500.
Wow.
But then that means no one can steal your name and use it on books, right? And it costs more the more products you cover, like video games and music and this and that.
Was that more of a trademark? So you trademarked Astromythos?
Yeah. Okay. So it has the little R next to it.
Yep. So anything pertaining to Astromythos would be trademarked, and then you can protect it. Mm-hmm. Brilliant. Awesome. Now, do you copyright the individual pieces, or you can't with that many, right? I mean, it'd be thousands.
There's I have like thousands of pieces now. There's over 100 per book.
Right.
And then
the book is protected. The copyright of the book is the book is copyrighted though, right?
And you can put inside the front cover, you can write, this is a form of copyright, I guess. You can put all characters and settings and names are copyright, so and so, in when you open the book in the credits.
Yeah.
Some legal protection.
Yeah. Well, guys, for licensing and contract terms, another really good tip is get a good lawyer. And that's one of the things you can do at these conferences, is make connections with really good attorneys as well. I know that Seth goes to AluxCon, and then Tammy, one of the very prominent copyright attorneys, she always goes to the surface trade conferences and stuff like that. So
yeah, Seth is he's really good.
Yeah. Good lawyer, guys. Get a good lawyer that understands copyright, trademark, all that good stuff. All right. Well, finally, S for success. How do you measure success, and how do you celebrate it? Because I think as artists, sometimes we just go and go and go, and we don't stop to celebrate our success. So how do you measure it? How do you say, yeah?
It depends on the person. Me personally, I think success is a measure of how you make people feel, how you inspire people. Personally, I don't think success is always, but it really helps. Success isn't always making a ton of money. Because the more money you make, the more problems you have, and the less time you have, in my experience, with your friends and family, and even with your fans, because you're too busy to answer them on social media. You can't, communicate with them. Like Plato said, the more, a friend to all is a friend to none, right? If you spend too much time focusing on measuring success by the amount of money you make, then it could be very dangerous. And
Yeah.
then that's the only thing you care about.
Yeah.
So and I'm talking about like a lot of money.
Yeah.
I
A bit of money would be nice.
it's great. Everybody needs it. It makes life easier. But at a certain point, when it ceases to make life easier, I don't think that's success. I think that's success to a fault. It's a detriment. And then it will start taking its toll on your creativity and, on your relationships and things. So I think success is how you make people feel, how you inspire people, and how you've mastered your craft.
I like that. How you've mastered your craft.
Because at the end of the day,
know.
you can take money with you. It's what continues to exist after you pass is how you've changed people's lives and how you've made a difference. And that money's not coming with you. You can't control how it's going to be distributed after you're gone.
Yeah.
But you can know and rest assured that you've helped people and you've made a difference and you made people feel good and you inspired them.
Yeah.
And that you mastered a craft and you would be remembered for that. You won't just be remembered for making a lot of money and building a corporation or something like that.
Yeah. I think for me personally, when I get a project done, like when I got the book finally finished and I had it in my hand, that was a really amazing feeling of success.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel that way with Astromythos?
Absolutely. After 20 years of working on it and 5 years of looking for a publisher, and it took me 5 years to write and illustrate it before that. I agree. Yeah. When I had that book in my hand, when I finally even when I just got the proof from China, I felt really accomplished because I had been working on it for almost my whole life. And that's all I knew. And that's all I was doing all the time, all I was thinking about. So to see the final product is a sign of success. And it's great because it encourages you to keep going and keep making great, fun things that inspire people, that people enjoy reading.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, thank you. So that is about it. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience, Jon?
I think that's about it. If anyone in the audience really liked what they heard, you can log on to my website, astromythos.com. And on the contact page, you can sign up for the mailing list or just, check out my work and maybe even pick up a book. But yeah.
Do you still have copies of Astromythos, the first one? Any signed copies left?
No, but I can sign it if I get a request for it.
Right. I have a signed copy, guys. It's gorgeous. The gold inlay on the front. Show us the book again.
Oh, this is the standard copy.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So this doesn't have
shininess and the gold, but it's the same interior. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Oh, you know what? We didn't go over how to pronounce your name like we did in the first episode.
That's a tough one.
Maybe we should tell people how to say your last name.
Okay, it's easier to remember if you use this little breakdown that I invented because no one can ever pronounce my name. So C, like the ocean, dairy, like milk.
C, dairy.
Like AH. And dis. Sideriadis.
Sideriadis.
Sideriadis. Yeah.
Sideriadis. There you have it, guys. Jon Sideriadis. Did I get it right?
Close enough. Yeah, it sounds better in Greek.
It is Greek, right?
Yeah, it's ancient Greek.
Are you from there originally? Your family is like...
My family's from there, but I was born here. I'm first generation. So I'm Greek American.
Sideriadis. Did I get close?
Close. Yeah. That's good enough. Yeah.
Well, thank you. We can put that in the outtakes.
Okay.
Anyways, I like to go over it and I don't mind making fun of myself. So eventually someday I'm going to put together a video of just all the outtakes from the episodes where I just flub it or, we say something silly or stupid or whatever.
I want to see that. definitely.
You want to see the silly one, the outtakes, right?
Yeah.
Very good. Hey, well, Jon, thank you so much for being on.
Oh, no problem.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right, take it easy.